Hi. Purpose of this video is just going to be a quick walkthrough of the first couple turns of a game, just to give a sense of how the gameplay works. I'm not intending to spend a lot of time going through all the different things of what everything means. I'll generate other videos for that, but this is just to give people a sense of how to get going. This is the screen that you'll start with. We're going to play against the computer. We're going to play the Ally just because there's more going on with the Allies and the Germans. We're not going to start from a saved game. We're going to start a brand new one. So we select no. And this is our first decision. We have to decide where we're going to invade. We've got the south of France over here, which is wide open, but presents a choke point here in the mountains, and also it's a pretty long supply line. Generally, the Germans will be set up to where North Sea is going to be a real tough one, not to mention the fact that the supply situation until you get inland is very difficult in the North Sea. It's generally not a good site to select. Pas de Calais is where the Germans thought the Allies would land on this setup, and you can tell which setup it's using. If you look down here in status message, it says this is a setup number 9. There's 10 different setups the Germans will use. Tells you which one it's using here. So if you play for a while, you'll know how Germans are setting up based on what the setup number is. If we look at Pas de Calais to figure out what's on the German hex, you just click the hex and it'll show you the units over here. So we've got 8 defensive factors in this city, which doubles to 16. That's a tough invasion. You've got an airborne unit here with 5. That's a possibility. Over here, we've got 7-9 defense factors. That's a possibility. When you're landing, you're thinking 1-to-1 is a good chance. You got 4 here, and you've got 8 doubled to 16 here. It's possible it's going to be tough. Le Havre is always a tough beach to choose just because you've got such a small front and you've got a fortress here. Normandy is where they actually did do the invasion. You got 4 doubled to 8 here. You got 4 doubled to 8 here. And then you've got 9 doubled to 18 on this one. This isn't you can't invade here. Just to give you, this is Keratin. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. You can't invade that directly. You can see you can invade here and invade here, but since this is going to be in the zone of control, if you invade in either of these 2 squares, they're going to have to attack that. So you've got 18 defending here. In the fortress at Cherbourg, you've got 4 tripled because it's a fortress. That's 12. And that's a possibility for a 1-to-1 on the invasion. So that's also a possibility. Brittany, in this setup, Brittany is a possibility for me, even though it is easy to choke the Germans, to choke the Allies off. But I would only choose Brittany if it's not really well defended. If you just look, you've got 2 very large army units sitting down here in Brittany. You've got all the fortresses defended pretty heavily. Brittany is not a good option. And in this setup, Bay of Biscay, once again, it's usually not this well defended. Even if it isn't defended, you've got only 4 divisions per turn you're going to be able to bring in. That's going to be really tough to win with only 4 divisions coming in. So basically with this setup, I'm looking at Pas de Calais or Normandy. Just for the sake of making a decision, we're going to move forward with Normandy. So the table here tells me what I can use in my first and my second, and from then on, my first turn I can use 6 infantry divisions and 3 parachute divisions. So I've got 6 infantry divisions. I'm going to go 1-to-1 here, 1-to-1 here. I can get a 1-to-1 here if I bring 4. I got 18, so if I do 8 and 16 plus an airborne, I can get 1-to-1 here. Remember, this is 18 defending. So based on that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1-to-1 here, 1-to-1 here. And then this is a key city. If I don't capture this, the Germans have the ability between these 2 cities to really choke me into this peninsula. So I'm going to use my airborne to try and win this hex. This is 8. I've got 3 airborne units I can use, so that would bring me up to 9. So I can get a 1-to-1 there. That'll leave me 2 infantry here, 2 infantry here, and then that still leaves me with 2 more infantry. I could bring them against here, 12, but that would be 8 against 12. That'd be 1 to 2. If I use one of my, I would need to use 2 of my airbornes to get a 1 to 1 here, or redeploy one of these attacks to use some of the infantry units there. These are the decisions you have to go through. There's no right answer. You'll have, as you gain experience, you'll find out what's going on. And before I forget it, this becomes important once I start my first combat, because this shows me what my settings are. It starts off with computer aggressiveness being very defensive, game difficulty being the easiest. Let's just mark these into the middle. And then this becomes important once you start your first combat, because this determines what strength of victory you may or may not get, or what strength of defeat you have based on what these are set at. But they start factoring into what is your easiest game setting anytime during the game, and that starts counting once you go through a combat. Anyway, we're going to put them in the middle, and we'll go from there. Anyhow, so I can basically get 2 1-to-1 battles plus an airborne battle out here at 1 to 1. I think what I'm going to end up doing is just going ahead, bringing 2 divisions against this beach, and you can see that it shows yellow where I can invade at. I'm going to bring 2 1-to-1 battles against this beach. I'm not going to use my other 2 because I can't bring them in without doing a 1 to 2 attack, and I don't really like doing that. So I'm going to end this phase, and then I'm going to move into my allied airborne mode. So like I said, I'm going to bring 3 airborne units against this this unit here. So I drop 2 out here. Once again, you can see the yellow hexes show me where I can drop at. And I'm going to bring 1 here. This gets me basically to where I want to do, so I end my current phase. Now I'm in movement mode. I can assign my combats here by going assign combat, clicking the unit that's defending. I want that unit to defend against these airborne units. I don't need any air support because if I do, it doesn't change my odds, so I'm going to leave that off. So I can go ahead and assign my combats here, and I would suggest that you do that just because you may end up finding something that you didn't realize, and when you're still in movement mode, you can still do something about it. But you don't have to. So if I end current phase and I go into combat mode, it then highlights all the units that have to either be attacked or have to attack this turn. And that's due to the zones of control that the units are in. Once I'm here, I don't have to click the assign combats. I just have to click my defender. And that's going to give me a 1-to-1 there. And that's going to give me a 1-to-1 there. Okay, so I've signed all my combats. So then I do display all combats. This allows me now to resolve my combats. I can resolve them in any order I want. I can add air support here and take it away if I want at this point. So I locate this battle and I say resolve. Basically, if you look down here, it's a 1-to-1. I rolled a 1, which translates to defense eliminated, and I absolutely need to occupy that hex after the battle. Anytime a defender is doubled or tripled in defense, the attacker has the option of gaining that hex after the battle. So, and I do have to bring, if I don't bring the units can't end their turn in the sea, so I've got to bring them on board. So my next battle is going to be this other hex up here. This was, I rolled a 3, which is defense back 2, but because of this airborne unit here, they weren't able to retreat out. I could have made, if this unit hadn't been here, it could have retreated back here and they would have survived, but since they couldn't retreat, they were eliminated anyhow. And then I bring my 2 units on ashore here. My last battle is here. Let's see if I get lucky and win all 3. And I did. No retreat available once again because I bracketed the hex, it rolled a 3, which was a deep defensive back 2, but there was no way for the defenders to retreat without going into a zone of control of an allied unit, so it means that it was eliminated anyhow. So I'm just going to put this unit into that hex, because if I put 2 here, then I leave this guy hanging out by themselves with just 3, so I want to leave 6 out here just to help on defending any counterattacks. And that finishes all of my combats. I quit here, and this gets me into my allied air mode. So there's 3 things I can do. I said I wasn't going to go through all the different options. So I'm going to do close air defense. I'm going to defend these guys out here because they're kind of open. I'm going to give this guy some air support. Air support basically adds 1 to the defenders if they're attacked. And then the other thing I can do here is assign unit interdiction. So that basically slows down German units that might be able to use strategic. So this guy has a movement of 4, but since he's an armored unit, he could move 8 in his turn. But if I interdict him, that means that he can't move strategically, which means he's going to be limited to 4. So I'm going to try and limit how much armor they can bring into play in the next turn. So I'm going to go with these big units and limit them to 4 their next turn. I still have 1 more to go, so I'll go ahead and click this other large unit. So that's all the air factors I have in this turn. So then I hit OK, and the AI does its thing. It brings up what the battle is. So if you locate this, you can see they're counterattacking against this single airborne unit that's in that city I captured, the British 6th Airborne. They're attacking at 2-to-1 odds. They've got 18. I've got 7 because I put 3 doubled plus 1 air factor. So if I hit resolve, you can see I rolled a 4, and that means that the attackers have to go back 2. Since if they're retreating, I get to decide where they're going to go, so then I can select which units I want to retreat first, and then it shows me what the hexes are that it can retreat to. And I just have to work through all of these different units. I'm going to leave these from not going across the river, so they might be open to an attack next turn. And these guys, I'm going to push out here. Alright, so that finishes the AI's turn. So now, we go back to the Allied turn. It's movement mode. There's no invasion on the second turn. In the second turn, I can bring in 2 armor, 4 infantry, and I don't have any parachute available to me this turn. One of the things, I'm not going to have an issue with the way this is shaping up, but supply can become an issue. Right now I have 10 supplies. That means I can supply 10 units. I've got 2, 4, 6, 7, so I can bring 3 more in with my current supply. It will not allow me to bring in more than 3 more units, even though I've got 6 available to me. That's because I'm limited. So I have to figure out what to do about supply at this point. I'm going to be limited on how many units I can bring in. There's not really any low-hanging fruit of new supply areas I can capture. So I'm going to have to try and get Cherbourg, because my next closest supply point is, what is this? Avalanche would be to capture this for another 5 supply units. But that's got 22 defense factors sitting on it, 11 doubled because it's the city. Not to mention that I've got this sitting here. So I'm kind of choked at this point. So like I said, I know that I can bring in 3 more units. One of the things I'm going to do is pull my airborne out, because once you lose an airborne, you can't ever replace it. And as you can see, they're in the most vulnerable position anyhow. So I'm going to first, if I click a C hex, it brings my airborne units off. I'm going to get those back to England, and now they're ready to be deployed again. There's no limit to how many times I can use an airborne unit as long as they're back in Britain. I'm going to take these units, solidify this city, Bring these guys out here to make sure that I don't get I'm gonna bring 2 armor units in here. So I've got 2, 4, 6. I can bring 4 more units in. I got a choice to make. I can either play it safe and try and build up my defenses around here, or I can move down and try and capture Cherbourg, which I really don't have any option. I've got to go try and get Cherbourg. So I've got 4 coming here. I've got 12 defending there, so I need at least 3 infantry divisions to defend against that. And then I can bring in 1 more and put him up here just to hold that town. You can notice that it won't let me bring any more in because I've reached my supply limit. Even though I probably have, I wasn't keeping track, but maybe I don't have any more. No, yes, because I brought 3 airborne units out. They don't add, they take away from supply, but it doesn't increase the number of units I can bring on the second turn. So I brought 6 units in, but I did bring 3 divisions out. And the only battle I'm going to be fighting here is against this fortress. I'm going to do that in my movement mode, assign combat. You can see I have to attack all units in a fortress. I don't get a choice. There's 12 defense factors, and there's 12 attack factors for a 1-to-1. In my current phase into my combat phase, display all combats, resolve this one, and I rolled a attacker back 2 so that you can see the German took care of moving my units back for me. And you can see one of my units, the Canadian 2nd Infantry, didn't have anywhere it could retreat to, which doesn't make any sense, but so my close air support for those units that are out in the front line. And that gives me 3 interdictions I can do. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the interdicting this unit still will impact. Interdicting these units now doesn't make any sense because they don't need to move more than 4 to get down. So if I look at the strategic reserve of the Germans, I'm going to start trying to slow them down. Okay, so I've used all my air power. Let's move back down here just so we can see what goes on with the AI. So they've got 2 battles going on. They're going to attack me here, and they're going to attack me here. This is a 2-to-1, I believe. Yep. And then this is a 1-to-1. So let's try and resolve this one first. Oh, attacker eliminated, so those guys held on. So let's look and see what happens with this one. They won that one. Alright. So that ends the German turn. So, coming back to it, I'm still only have 10 supply available. I got 2, 4, 6, 7. I can bring 3 divisions in. The box here says I can bring 9, but once again, I can only bring 3 in because that's the only supply that I can hold on. Let's see if there's a chance of me being able to capture this. Well, yes, there is. So they've only got 5 factors here. That's 10. I've got 2 armor units here. I can bring 2 more armor units in, and that would give me a 2-to-1 against this hex. If I do that, that's a port, so that'll increase my supply next turn. I can reattack this at 12, and that'll also increase my supply. The other benefit of attacking this, of capturing this city, is you can see they've got the northern flank of Normandy pretty well set. I'm not going to be able to attack these guys right now. I'm not strong enough. If I let them reinforce this area, which they've got some units coming in, that's going to bottle me up in Normandy, and that's going to be tough. So there's 2 benefits of me capturing this city. One is that I get extra supply, but also help me from being bottled up. So let's make that my priority. I'm in airborne mode. because I do have airborne available, and that counts against my units. I'm not going to do any airborne landings, so I'm going to end that current phase. Now I'm in movement mode. Let's bring my armor units in to make this attack. Bring these other 2 armor units in. And then I've got 3 divisions I can bring in. Let's redeploy. Now, in case these guys are lost, I want to keep these guys here. I need to have somebody up here protecting my beachhead, and we definitely need 2 units there. So that means I now have 2 units I can bring in. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Actually, no, I don't, because I don't have any more supply available to me. So I'm going to have to leave it like that. I could take these units that are unassigned this turn and attack Cherbourg. Problem is, if I'm looking at this, if I lose this battle and I bring these guys out, the Germans are just going to sweep in, and I'm in not good shape. So I've got to protect myself in case this battle is not won. Let's assign that combat. Both of these divisions. You can see there's a defensive 10. And we've got 20 that'll be attacking. That's 2-to-1 odds. Let's move on to the combat phase and display the combats, and let's resolve. Attacker back 2. So I didn't lose my units, but I didn't win that battle either. We've got a lot of close air support we want to assign. This guy's going to definitely probably be attacked next turn. Let's give him some support. He's not doubled because he's sitting on an empty hex, so he could be vulnerable for a cross-river attack. So let's keep these guys. We got 2 more. Let's go ahead and just flesh it out. We're not going to interdict anybody this turn. We're just going to use it all for close air support. That's all my 6, and let's see what the computer does. No surprise, it's attacking these guys that are hanging out there. Resolve that. He got eliminated. Resolve that. He got eliminated. Or he got defense back too, but there was no way he could retreat without going into a... The good news here is that the Germans decided to leave that town open, so I can increase my supply this turn, which is a big deal. It also keeps me from getting bottled up. That's the end of the 3rd turn. You can see I'm on turn number 4. It's going to continue on. I've got to break out of this. But the intent of this video was just to give you a quick start, and hopefully you got some idea of how this game's going to work and how it flows. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below, and I will try and get to them as soon as I can. Thank you.